Entire cities don't just disappear. Something has to go so catastrophically wrong that hundreds of thousands of people decide they can never return. Sometimes it happens overnight. Other times, it takes decades. And on the flip side, some cities were never really alive to begin with. So, what hidden forces can transform entire cities into ghost towns? Let's find out. One of the clearest answers lies in Pripyat, Ukraine. In 1970, thousands of families moved into one of the newest cities in the Soviet Union. Built to support the workers of the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Pripyat quickly became a thriving modern city. It had apartment buildings, schools, hospitals, places for recreation, and a brand new amusement park that was just days away from opening. It was just like any other flourishing city. Then, in the early hours of April 26, 1986, everything changed. Reactor number 4 exploded, but the explosion wasn't the biggest threat. Radiation was. You couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, and worst of all, nobody knew if they had already been exposed. About 36 hours later, an evacuation notice was announced over local radio. Residents were told to bring only what they needed for a few days. That afternoon, more than 1,000 buses rolled into the city. In less than 3 hours, nearly 50,000 people were evacuated. Their city had become an invisible death trap. The few days they were promised turned into forever. Today, the city's Ferris wheel still stands exactly where it was built. It has become one of the most recognizable symbols of abandoned places anywhere on Earth. Pripyat became unlivable almost overnight. But not every abandoned town dies that quickly. Some take decades, because beneath the town, the disaster never stopped. Welcome to Centralia, Pennsylvania. In the late 1800s, this bustling mining town was built on a single resource: coal. Thousands of people lived here. Businesses thrived. Families built homes. It was just like any other successful town. Then, in 1962, a fire accidentally ignited inside an abandoned coal mine. At first, it didn't seem like a major problem, but the flames spread into underground coal seams, where they found millions of tons of fuel. Instead of burning for days or weeks, the fire simply kept going. Years passed. The flames crept silently beneath the town. The ground began cracking open. Toxic gases seeped through the streets. Some roads became so hot, they started collapsing. Scientists eventually realized something almost impossible. The fire could continue burning. For centuries, there was no realistic way to put it out. So instead of stopping the fire, people abandoned the town. Today, only a handful of people still call Centralia home. But beneath every empty street, the fire is still burning. The hidden force wasn't a single catastrophic event. It was a disaster that simply refused to end. Not every city is destroyed by disaster. Some are simply abandoned, and then nature takes over. That brings us to Kolmanskop, Namibia. In 1908, a railway worker spotted something glittering in the desert sand. It was a diamond. News quickly spread, and within months, people rushed into one of the harshest deserts on Earth hoping to get rich. Almost overnight, a luxurious town appeared in the middle of nowhere. Elegant German-style homes, a hospital, school, ballroom, even one of the first X-ray machines in the southern hemisphere used to stop workers from secretly swallowing diamonds. For a while, Kolmanskop became one of the richest diamond towns in Africa. But the diamonds didn't last forever. By the 1920s, larger diamond deposits were discovered farther south. Families packed up, businesses closed, and one by one, people left. Without anyone to maintain the buildings, the Namib Desert slowly began moving back in. Year after year, the wind carried more sand through broken windows and open doorways. Rooms slowly filled, hallways disappeared, entire houses became buried beneath towering sand dunes. Today, some buildings are filled almost to the ceiling with sand. It's one of the few places on Earth where you can actually watch nature reclaim an entire town. The next city didn't fade away because nature took it back. It disappeared because the world no longer needed the reason it existed. About 15 kilometers off the coast of Japan sits one of the strangest abandoned places on Earth. Hashima Island, better known as Battleship Island. From a distance, its towering concrete buildings make it look more like a giant warship than an island. But every building existed for one reason: coal. Beneath the island, miners extracted coal from tunnels stretching hundreds of meters below the ocean floor. As demand grew, more apartment buildings were squeezed onto the tiny island. Schools, shops, restaurants, everything people needed, packed into just a few acres of land. At its peak, more than 5,000 people lived here. making Hashima one of the most densely populated places on Earth. But cities built around a single industry often share the same problem. If that industry disappears, so does the city. When the world no longer needed coal, the mines shut down, jobs disappeared, families moved away, and within just a few months, Hashima became completely empty. Today, the concrete buildings still stand, the streets are still there, but there's almost no sign that thousands of people once called this island home. It's as if everyone simply walked away. The hidden force was a city that lost the very reason it existed. Most ghost towns are abandoned because people have no choice. Varosha is different. People wanted to come back. They just weren't allowed to. Before 1974, Varosha was one of the Mediterranean's most popular beach resorts. Luxury hotels lined the coastline, restaurants stayed busy, tourists filled the beaches. It welcomed hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. Then, everything changed. Conflict broke out across Cyprus. As fighting spread, the people of Varosha fled. Most believed they would be back within days, but they never returned. The military sealed off the entire district. For decades, almost nobody was allowed inside. Hotels slowly fell apart. Cars remained where they had been parked. Storefronts sat untouched behind locked streets. Nature quietly began reclaiming the city, but no one was there to stop it. Today, parts of Varosha have only recently begun reopening, but much of the city still looks as though time simply stopped in 1974. Most cities become ghost towns after people leave. Ordos almost became one before they ever arrived. In the early 2000s, China invested billions of dollars into building a brand new modern city. It had everything a growing city would need. The plan was simple: build first, and people would follow. But they didn't. For years, entire neighborhoods sat nearly empty. Apartment buildings had almost no residents. Streets were unusually quiet. Some people even called Ordos the largest ghost city in the world. Over time, more residents gradually moved in. Today, parts of Ordos are far more populated than they once were. But its story became famous for a completely different reason. It showed that even a perfectly built city can struggle if people aren't ready to live there. Ordos showed that even a brand new city can feel abandoned. But the final city wasn't built too early. It simply couldn't survive. The land beneath it, high on a hill in southern Italy, stands the medieval town of Craco. For centuries, people built their lives here. The town survived wars, changing kingdoms, and hundreds of years of history. It seemed almost impossible to destroy, but the greatest threat was underneath it all along. Craco had been built on unstable ground. Over time, erosion weakened the hillside. Then landslides began. Large sections of the town became too dangerous to live in. One by one, families left. Not because they wanted to, because staying had become too dangerous. Today, Craco still overlooks the valley below, almost exactly as its residents left it. Its empty streets have appeared in countless movies because they already look like the end of the world. 7 cities, 7 completely different stories, but they all reveal the same truth. Ghost towns don't appear by accident. They are created by forces powerful enough to erase an entire community.